for today. My name is Amanda Cripple, and I am the Family Community Health Agent in Harris County. And some of you I have met, and some of you I have not. So hopefully in the near future, when things go back to normal, we can present at your community center near you and bring you some really great programs that we offer at Extension. So today's program is called Dining at the Dollar Store. And probably many of us have shopped at the dollar store, but probably not for groceries or food. In this program, we're going to talk about shopping tips to help you buy food at the dollar store as well. So many of us are having to make really smart decisions about how we spend our money. I know I am. I'm a family of 5. Both my husband and I both work, but we try to be like that word frugal, right? We try to be frugal. We try to really limit our money on not going out to eat too often. And also we try to use our money wisely when we do go to the grocery store, because lately in this pandemic, we have been buying a lot of snacks, which I know many of us do, but we've been like overbuying, like a lot of chips, a lot of cookies, which is not good for us, but we tend to go a little overboard. So when we are shopping, we try to find ways to stretch our dollar and the money we have. And some of those ways could be finding out our needs and our wants, right? So really, do we want that or do we need that? So like, do I really need the big 24 box of chips, or am I okay buying like just one bag and cutting it into different sizes for our family and for our kids? So really kind of making sure that we're spending our money wisely. One way to save money is by looking at our food expenses. So research has said that we spend over $7,200 a year on food. And out of that, we spend over 43% on going out. So about $3,000 we spent on going out to eat. And for a family of 5, that adds up quickly. I mean, on Sunday, we just actually ordered out. We ordered from Freddy's, which we've never had before. And it was about $40 for a family of 5. So that gets pretty expensive if you keep going out to eat all the time. So one of those ways that we can cut our food expenses down is by planning our meals in advance, which help us identify which foods we need to buy and can keep us from eating out as often, and of course, saving money. So in knowing how much food costs is helpful, and it helps us to compare foods also and determine what is a good buy when we shop. So in addition, more people are using coupons. If you all shop at, say, Kroger or even now H-E-B, they have an app where you can use the app and use the coupons on the phone. H-E-B has those yellow coupons, which I know many of has seen. They have like that, I think it's called Combo Loco, where if you buy one thing, you get like 2 things free, which is like, for me, it's like, oh my God, it's a bargain. Like I want the chips that go with the barbecue or the hot dog or things like that. So a lot of us try to find ways to help us save money. Some people go an additional step and purchase food even from a farmer's market. I really have never shopped at a farmer's market up until 2 weeks ago. I live in Kingwood, and we have a local town center, and every Thursday I think it's from like 4 to 8, it's our farmer's market. And I've never really gone before, and I went to actually buy masks because there was this lady who was selling masks. And I bought some masks, and as I looked around, I was like, oh my God, they had eggs. And I bought eggs for, I think about a dozen for like $1 something. And they had vegetables and things like that. So that's another way to save money as well, as shopping at your local farmer's market. And then also supporting our local farmers as well. Other people are buying fewer or less national brands and instead are buying store brands. Like before, I know I used to buy Del Monte. That's how I grew up. And I won't go anywhere else. I'll just use Del Monte vegetables, corn, and green beans. But lately, when I go to Kroger, I do buy the Kroger brand because it is less expensive versus the Del Monte brand, which is the national brand. So a lot of us either shop local or we shop the main brands or the national brands. So if you want to put in the, oh, I can't see the chat box, but Susan can. How many of you, when you do buy groceries, buy the store brand? So if it's Kroger or HEB, or I think that's really it, right? Kroger or HEB or Walmart too. Yeah, so put in the chat box or you can come off mute. Do you prefer the national brand, or are you okay spending less money and using the store brand?
Kind of depends on what it is.
It depends, right? So yeah, a lot of people are like, you know what? I only buy national brand vegetables, and I won't buy a store something else. It just kind of depends on your preference, right? So thank you for sharing that. Anybody else?
Macaroni cheese has got to be Kraft.
Macaroni cheese has got to be Kraft.
I tried the other store brands, but there's nothing like Kraft macaroni and cheese.
Right, and it's you know what? It's so funny because I have well, she's now 6, and she's very picky, and the only thing she seems to eat is macaroni and cheese. And you know what? At this point, I'm okay with it. We'll sneak in vegetables and we'll sneak in fruit. And I actually bought a generic brand at a store, I don't remember. And I remember I prepared it and served it for her, and she gave me this weird face, and I was like, what's wrong? Eat your mac and cheese. She's like, it doesn't taste the same. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, it doesn't taste the same. It's a different color. She was making these faces, and I was like, and I figured that she knew the difference between the generic brand and the Kraft, which I always buy, Kraft macaroni and cheese. And she says, Mom, please don't buy that. I don't like it. Don't buy it anymore. I was like, okay. So, you know, just like you, a lot of people have their favorites, and they kind of won't, they won't go to another brand. Go ahead.
I buy sour cream that's pure cream, and the generic brand has a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, it just really depends. And a lot of us grew up like on a certain brand. Like I grew up on StarKist tuna. That's it. I won't buy the Bumblebee. I won't buy the other brand. I only buy StarKist because I grew up on that. To me, it tastes better. That's just the way, and that's a lot of ways. You know, if you grew up a certain way, that's what you're kind of always going to eat. So it's really interesting to hear, especially everyone's kind of the way they think on what they want to buy. Okay, so go ahead.
We like to put Chloe in her cake.
Okay, so please mute your mics, just unless you want to say something, please come off mute. Please come off mute, but if you just please mute your mics so we don't hear a lot of the background noise. So I'm sure many of us have shopped at the dollar store. And then what have you bought at the dollar store? I know when I go to the dollar store, I buy gift bags, I buy candy, and I buy dishware because we have little kids and they always break, and I'm not going to buy expensive dishware. So I go to the dollar store and I buy just plastic cups or glass cups that are $1. So do you all buy those kind of things at the dollar store?
I do.
Yeah, a lot of us do.
I buy reading glasses and sunglasses because the price of sunglasses elsewhere is just astronomical, and I'm very happy with the sunglasses I get there, and same with the reading glasses. Just
good for you.
Watch the magnifying power on them.
Good. So
I buy the detergents from there because a lot of times, and I mean, it's name brand detergents, but a lot of times they'll have it at a much cheaper price than what's in the regular grocery stores.
That's right. And we're going to talk about that in just a few seconds. So again, a lot of us buy wrapping paper, gift bags, like I mentioned. Kitchen gadgets is also another thing. And it's just a way for us to save money and a way to shop. But also at the dollar store, they do have, they do have your essential pantry needs, right? So sometimes if you run, I know sometimes when I run, you know, we did spaghetti a few weeks ago, and I looked in my pantry, I'm like, oh, great, I'm out of spaghetti sauce. So I literally ran to the dollar store that's not far from me, and I grabbed one, and I'm in and out There's never a lot of traffic in there, and I can get it done really quick. So a lot of us do.
Can I say something? I live over by Hobby, and
Uh,
we have a 99-cent store here.
uh-huh,
And I go there, I have my grocery list. I
uh-huh.
go there before I go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
And this one has name brand items.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
I buy my items here and I check my expiration dates. Then I go to the grocery store.
You're doing all the right things. That's very good. Exactly. So a lot of us don't know that at the 99 cents or Family Dollar or Dollar Tree that there is essential items in the that we need for our pantry. Some of them even have a frozen section that, you know, it's usually tucked away in the back, and people just usually go to the right side of the store, which has the gift bags, the paper goods, and then they kind of run out. But if you kind of go to the other side of the store, you'll see all the pantry essential needs that they offer, plus even frozen items as well. So some of the reasons why people do shop at the dollar store is that their prices are good. 2, the location of the store is close to home. And then 3, the location of the store is close to work or another destination. Especially if you live in large urban areas like we do here in Houston, a lot of our areas here in Houston don't have big, large grocery stores. Here in Houston, we still have areas that what we call a food desert, where there's not a grocery store within miles. And sometimes there may be a dollar store tucked away in that little area. And sometimes that's where a lot of people do get their groceries, is at the dollar store. So a really great thing to know is that the dollar store does offer essential foods, but just like the lady just mentioned, the prices are good, and also check for expiration dates, which we'll talk about in a few minutes.
Yeah, you got to be careful when you go to the dollar stores.
Mm-hmm.
You really want to try to go like once a week, because their products, they change, because they don't order just, one particular thing. They order whatever they can get, they get in that store. So
Right.
it changes all the time.
Yeah, that's true. So, like a lot of us, from hearing from what you guys say, do shop at the grocery store. So why are some reasons why people won't shop at a grocery store? And you can come off mute or you can type it in the chat box. Susan can help me figure that out.
Say the question again.
So why might people not want to buy at the dollar store, buy food at the dollar store?
Because you
Because it's
can't trust it. You can't trust it. Don't know if it's been off temperature. Don't know if it's been. I think sometimes it has been like the worst of the crop. So I
Right.
think sometimes they might buy it in a. I think they call them a pallet. I think they buy them in a pallet. So
Uh-huh.
then they'll bring them to you, and some people say, "Hey, that's good enough for me." But I think it's not. It didn't meet the maybe the what did we call it? The brand. Maybe Kellogg's didn't think it was the better of their crop. Maybe Del Monte thought it was the worst of the crop, and they sold it as a patch, and it ends up in these stores, and people say, "Hey, I don't care."
Yeah. Yeah. So you're right. A lot of people won't buy food at the dollar store because they think it's not maybe they just
good
didn't
enough.
make the cut,
Not
right?
up to par. Not up to par.
Not up to par, right? Another reason sometimes people might not want to buy food is because they might think that the food is outdated, which really, that's a good way to really look at your expiration dates on your food cans as well. Another reason might be that the foods they have at the dollar stores are not the foods that they eat. So I think if you buy corn from H-E-B and corn from the dollar store, it might taste the same. You just really won't know until you actually try the corn from the dollar store, right? Another reason what that might say is that those foods aren't nutritious. Well, we have food that are not nutritious everywhere. Dollar store has cookies and candies, and so does H-E-B and Walmart and Kroger. It just really depends how you want to shop. So thank you for sharing.
Teresa had her hand up. Teresa, did you have a question? And I think she might be on mute.
She might be on mute.
She might be helping somebody at the center.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had my hand up because I thought that meant yes.
Oh,
What you
okay.
asked
Well, you
earlier.
did.
yeah.
I'm just learning about this team thing. Okay.
It's okay. Thank you, Teresa. So let's look at some really common characteristics of items at the dollar store. So for example, contrary to some popular beliefs, dollar stores can help stretch your food budget. The key is knowing how to shop. So let's talk about what do we know about dollar stores and try to dispel some of those myths that we might have about them. The first one is that the dollar stores don't carry foods we normally eat. So if you haven't been to the dollar store lately, check them out because they do carry name brand foods. They carry Prego sauce, they carry Duncan Hines, they carry Campbell's soup. Now they might not carry Del Monte corn, but they carry a different brand that we're not aware of because we've never really shopped only for Del Monte, right? Vegetables. So it's really important to just check them out if you haven't. So something like this meal right here in the picture. So we have a Prego can of spaghetti sauce, green bean vegetables, peaches, and spaghetti. So this meal, which serves about 4 people, which is a generous portion, costs $6.85 at the dollar store. This is about $1.72 per person. Similar items like the Prego sauce and the green beans and store brand peaches will vary at a name brand store, right? And probably cost a little over $7. So again, we just want you to identify, we want to give you, help you identify a healthy meal that can be made from a local dollar store. So sometimes there's a perception that foods sold at the dollar store are the ones that nobody else wants or wants to buy, and some of the brands you've never heard before. If you check your local dollar store, you'll likely find that they sell national brand items just like the grocery store. So just like I mentioned earlier, you can find Duncan Hines items, you'll find Campbell's soup. I've bought that Lucky Leaf cinnamon applesauce. My kids love applesauce, which is great. And I've bought this brand and I've seen it not only at the dollar store, but I think I've seen it at Walmart as well.
Yeah.
So they do sell, I mean, the dollar store even carries Libby, which we've seen at Walmart. I've even seen it at Target, I think. So you can find name brand foods at the dollar store. It's not just it's just not brands that we've never heard of before. So dollar stores also sell foods produced in other parts of the country as well. So we're not aware of them, but don't be afraid to give them a try as well. We might actually be surprised, right? Some dollar stores sell foods that are produced or packaged in other countries. And although these foods required to follow the food labeling laws established in the US, some participants may be hesitant to taste or package foods that are not produced in the US. So a lot of people, if it says a name like, there's a store, I don't know if you're familiar with the store called Aldi. So this store, Aldi, has their own brand of foods, and I think they're from Sweden or they're from another country. And there's some foods that I've never seen before, and the brand I can't even pronounce. And I'm hesitant. I'm like, well, I don't know. I've never seen Dukin something. And I'm like, oh, I think I'll just pass it up. But that's just me. I'm kind of a little hesitant if I'm not familiar. If I can't even pronounce the name, I probably won't even give it a try. But that's just me. So just because we have a food item in the dollar store doesn't always mean that it's a bargain or it's at the lowest cost. So here's one example that we want to show you. So this example of coffee was higher at the dollar store compared to the same item sold at a big box store. So like a Kroger, an H-E-B, Walmart, both located about 2.5 miles from each other. While this is just one item, if one uses the dollar store as the main source of groceries, you might be spending a little bit more money than you planned. So the price of the coffee at the large discount store like Walmart was least expensive, then the grocery store like Kroger, and then the dollar store price was the more expensive one. So sometimes we might be thinking we might be getting a bargain at the dollar store, but sometimes it's a little bit less expensive at the big chain store.
Hello, were you were talking about Aldi's a few minutes ago?
Yes.
And Aldi's have different brands and it's never the same thing. I just love it. And
Yeah.
it's a very interesting store.
Yes.
They have stuff that you have never experienced before in the bakery department, in the beer, the wine, some of the canned goods. And I like to go and just look at them and see how interesting they are, and I buy them. And they're just as good. And the chips and everything, they're less expensive. I think you can get a bag of chips for like $1.25, where they're $4.99 in the store.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love Aldi too. I just went, the one thing that I'm like obsessed with at Aldi is I buy their their milk. It's a soy milk and it's a green and it's like $1.29. It's so inexpensive, but it has less fat, it has less sugar, and I use that for my smoothies every morning. And nobody else likes it. I love it. And that's the one thing that I always buy at the grocery store at Aldi. I buy their fruit is usually really less expensive than the big box store as well. And then I love that sometimes they have certain things and then they don't. Like one time I bought these chips made by Aldi, and then I went back like a week later and they were gone. I'm like, well, when are you gonna get them again? And the man's like, oh, it's it just whenever they come. And I was like, man, and I can never, every time I go, they're never there. So I really like Aldi. It's a really great store. I love that it's small, it's not so big. And their prices are pretty inexpensive, which is really good too. So yeah. So thank you for sharing.
You're gonna make me go to Aldi's today.
I just went yesterday to get my milk because I ran out actually, and I had to go buy a milk. But I always come out with, oh my gosh, they have these. It's a popcorn and it's dill pickle popcorn. Oh my gosh, it is so. I eat the whole bag, which is so bad, but that's another story. But it's really good. Anyways, we're going off track. Okay, so thank you, ladies, for sharing. So here is another example of a food item that's higher than the same item sold in a large discount store, both located within 2 miles of each other. Just this one item, if you shop frequently at dollar stores, you may end up spending just a little bit more money than you planned. Sometimes the big discount store like Walmart was a little bit more than the general grocery store like H-E-B. So again, it's just really about knowing what you need in advance, which is always really good if you plan your meals ahead or your grocery list. A lot of now places have their coupons on an app, and you can get that, and I'm going to show you that in a second as well. So sometimes a food purchased at the dollar store may seem inexpensive because the package is smaller. And this is one big thing and one rule that I really did learn the hard way. So here's an example of Jif peanut butter to go. I love these. I buy these all the time because I can throw one of these little cups in my purse and I have pretzels or something like that. I can put them in my kids' lunchbox for school with pretzels or with celery or anything else that they want to dip into it. When I went to the dollar store, I bought these and I noticed there were only 3 in a package for $1. But then at the grocery store at Walmart, there's sometimes 8 of them or 6 of them, and it's $2 and change, right? So we're actually spending a little bit less money. We're spending more money at the dollar store for less, but we're getting more at the grocery store for more and just 1 cent less. So it's really hard to kind of see those differences. Like, I bought it at the dollar store and then I go to Walmart the next day. I'm like, oh man, I could have gotten 8 for $1 more and it would have been X amount of money. So it's really hard with packaging and sizes to know these differences. So just be aware of that, right? So sometimes, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but being just one person in the house though, sometimes it pays just to get the 3 rather than the 8 because those other 5 are just going to sit on the shelf for months and months and probably expire before I ever use them. So
exactly, That was my next comment, is that sometimes if we're a family of two and only I like peanut butter, it's better to buy the one at the dollar store because exactly what you just said, right? We're only going to use one and maybe 3 or 4 weeks later we'll eat the other one, versus the 8-pack, exactly what you just said. It's going to sit on that shelf for a while and it's not going to get eaten. So again, it's just really what works for you and your family, for you and your budget as well. And of course, our waistline, which is one of the biggest things right now during this pandemic, with snack foods, which we all love. I just bought a lot of snacks because now my kids are doing school remote and they're constantly eating. And so we bought little cookies, we bought the little peanut butter that you just saw, we bought graham crackers and just a lot of little small packages that they can eat really quick and, before they get onto their next Zoom meeting or whatever they're doing. So snack foods at the dollar store may be a better choice because of the package size. So they may be, and their serving size as well, which is smaller. The package on the left of the cookies, for example, has 4 cookies per package. This is a smaller one compared to the package at the big grocery store, which usually has 6. And the chips on the right have 1.125 ounces per bag. This is less than the traditional size bag, which is a little bit bigger, which is about 1.375 ounces. So in this case, it's better to go with the smaller packaging. And also it's a little bit healthier for us, right? Because like I told you earlier, I could sit in front of my TV and eat the whole bag of popcorn from Aldi in one sitting, which is not good. So we definitely want to make sure that when we're buying snacks, that they're a smaller portion for us, especially now that we're home more often and we're sitting more and we're not moving enough. And then also, especially too, for our diabetic community as well, is we want to make sure that we're eating our snacks at their smaller portions, but they're also a healthier option as well.
There was one question from Kay earlier about some brands not being manufactured in country. Is that a health risk?
Oh, well, again, food that is not produced in the U.S. doesn't have to follow USDA guidelines, which means they're not tested in the U.S. They're tested wherever they're produced. So could there be a health risk? Possibly, yes. Because they're not following the USDA guidelines when they're being packaged.
But then,
you have food in Kroger's and Walmart and Randall's and everywhere else that's from China and from other places.
Yeah,
so it's the same.
Yeah, they can sell anything, right? We can sell snacks that were from Mexico or snacks are from China. But again, they're not properly processed or following USDA guidelines and things like that. So do we know if they're possibly a health risk in it? Possibly, but we don't know that because we have no idea how they're being processed in their country. Anything else, Susan?
Nope. Miss Ashley said that Aldi's a German country or German company, but y'all might have already mentioned that. And then something to keep in mind is that there are some countries that have more stricter food laws than we do. So their food might actually be better than the U.S. processed food.
That's true. Every country's different, and we don't know how their processing works or portions and all that stuff. So it's really interesting to see how different stores or countries process their food as well. So thank you for that. So, okay, so no matter where you shop, if you want to save money on food, you have to know how much it costs, thus the consumer. So no matter we're buying at a grocery store, the dollar store, the local market down the street, we have to become aware of the food prices if you want to make sure that you are getting a good deal. So I shop Aldi, I shop Kroger and I shop at HEB because there's some things that I really love from HEB. There's some things that I really like from Kroger. And there's some things like the popcorn and the milk that I really love from Aldi. But on my phone, I have the Kroger app because I go there more often. And sometimes when I do shop, for example, let's do corn because I pulled it up earlier. So I know that at Kroger, it costs 65 cents for the Kroger brand style of corn, which is 15.25 ounces, right? And I can also scroll and look at the Del Monte, which I know you can't see on my camera, but for the same ounces, 15.25, it costs $1.25. So usually I'll just buy my husband's calling me, sorry. I'll usually buy just the Kroger brand of the corn at Kroger because I know it's a little bit less and I'm saving a couple more cents. And I can't taste the difference anymore now that I'm older. If it's from Del Monte or if it's from Kroger, the corn tastes the same. So for me, I will buy that brand at the grocery store. So that's one way, is keeping track of our prices so you can spot good foods. The Kroger app, if I do that, I can add it to my cart and it pulls up any coupons that I use on my Kroger app. So that's a really great way to track your food and your spending as well. Does anybody use a Kroger app? Or I think HEB also has one too now, where you can keep track of coupons or anything like that?
I use a Kroger app, but did you say your coupons apply? When I do the app and pick my food up where they put it in the car, I don't seem to get my coupons.
Yeah, so you have to put it, so if you use the Kroger app, you have to, I just pressed something else. You have to press that, whatever that item is, say it's the corn, like it's 5 cans for $2 or whatever. If you add it to your cart, then it automatically pulls it up. And then when you use your little that little thing, that plastic thing, and you swipe it, the Kroger card, it's connected to your phone and your card. It should automatically upload all those coupons in there.
Well, see, I don't do it on the app. I do it on my desktop computer, and that's through Kroger's app also. But I don't ever see my coupons load. So I don't know if I'm on just the website of shopping online, but I hardly ever see my coupons go over. I usually have to go back in the store and talk to somebody.
Yeah, you might want to, I don't know if it's different because of your computer, but it shouldn't be because, and then because you have to put in your Kroger card, so it's already linked in there. So that's interesting. Yeah, my coupons roll in there, so they roll over. So it's something to look into. Okay,
so make sure you're signed in. Yeah.
Yeah.
On the computer, you got to make sure you're actually signed in.
Okay. So also keeping track of food prices, it seems like really a really large task to start, but starting with a small number of foods that you buy most often, like canned vegetables, our pastas and things like that, that would be a right way to start in keeping with how much food costs. And then if you decide to go to the dollar store, you can see, oh, you know what, at the Kroger, the 16 ounces of spaghetti is $1.29, and I can get the same 16 ounces of spaghetti at the dollar store for $1. It's just a different brand. Okay. So again, there's different apps. If you're tech savvy, if you like to have a lot of apps, I have a lot of apps on my phone, but I use certain ones for certain things. There's apps, even one called Pantry Check for groceries, I think, that you can cross-check lists from different groceries, and they'll have the prices up there. Again, it's just what you're most comfortable with. I mean, my aunts back home, I'm from the Valley, they still use the coupons and with the big newspaper, and they're looking, and they're like, and they're old school, and they like to write down in their pad. They're like, oh, the ground beef was this much at Walmart. So I grew up that way. So that's why I like certain things from HEB. I like certain things from Kroger, and then I like certain things from Aldi. So it's really, really different. on, oh, what happened here?
Well, nobody Von's standing on her head.
I know, I don't have my screen. Uh-oh.
Yeah, stop sharing.
I'm not sharing. Somebody else started sharing. Want to request control. Uh-oh.
Did someone hack us?
No?
No? Okay.
Do you see it, my screen?
There you
Okay, now
go.
we see your
We
screen.
do.
Okay, okay. All of a sudden, something happened. All right. So again, we talked about coupons. So something about coupons when you're shopping for food. Some dollar stores accept coupons, some don't. Some have a limit on what you can do, what you can use. And then of course, really important that a lot of our families now who are on SNAP benefits or WIC, most dollar stores accept those benefits as well. So it's really great, especially for our low income families, that if they don't have the transportation to go to a big box store, but the dollar store is a block away, that's sometimes our best bet, right? So again, depending on where we live and how we shop, sometimes going to the dollar store is what's best for anyone. So again, if your dollar store takes SNAP benefits or WIC, or vouchers like that, that's also really important, because we definitely want to make sure that all our families across really everywhere are getting the food that they need. And again, they might not be used to that brand of food, but at least you're getting your vegetables and sometimes even frozen products at the store as well. So the only way to get a feel for what foods are at your local dollar store is to actually step into the dollar store and take a look around. Don't go to that one section we always go to, right? Just the seasonal items and the gift bags and the candy, and kind of just walk out of there. We definitely want to go in there and see the foods that they have. Go to the back of the store. That's where they usually have their frozen food sections, getting to know the types of foods that they sell and then the prices. So this is also another way that's going to help stretch your dollar. And just like a lady earlier said, sometimes the detergent is also less expensive there too. Sometimes my daughter, who is now at college in Nacogdoches, she just moved in last week and she needed some items, and she's like, I need, X, Y, and Z. I'm like, go to the dollar store. You don't need a big tub of detergent because it's just you. Buy the small tub, and that works for you. So she bought detergent, and she bought her Downy things for the dryer and some other things. And she didn't spend more than probably $10, $12 of some of the other items that she needed as well, because it's just her by herself.
Yeah, when my son moved into his apartment, I went to the dollar store. And I probably spent $30, but I got him detergent, little things that men don't think about, like toothpicks, salt and pepper shakers, a can opener, a bottle opener, broom, mops, all these little things there that you spend $1 for. And his buddy that they're sharing the apartment with, his mother did the same thing. So for probably $50 or $60, we supplied their whole house.
Right, exactly.
All at the dollar store.
Yeah, I mean, you can buy plates, really nice plates and cups and things like that. I mean, sometimes I usually get my, when I do some baking, I buy all the foil baking ware there, that it's like that Reynolds wrap kind. I mean, you get 4 or 5 for $1, and it's, you get a lot of it. So it's really just important just to step inside the store and see the types of items that they sell. It's not just the seasonal and the candy and all that great stuff, right? So go ahead.
And another thing too is, like, I like to go into the dollar store and just walk around, because I'm from New York. And up in New York, you could only buy this one product up on the East Coast. The Northeast Coast is Mighty Fine Pudding. You cannot find that down here, no matter what. But this one dollar store, it's a 99-cent store. I go in there every so often. They've got my Mighty Fine Pudding and Mueller spaghetti.
Oh,
Mueller's a little bit more popular down here now, but when I first came down here 30 years ago, it was you couldn't find it, and that was our main brand up in New York.
Yeah,
so
interesting.
Go in and look around, because sometimes you can find things that make you think about your childhood.
Yeah.
Different kind of old-fashioned candies that you find there. So it's fun to just go in there and look around, because they've got all the odd stuff that the regular stores don't.
That's right. That's true. That's very true. So sometimes at the dollar store, like many grocery store and convenience stores, carry foods that again are highly processed that sometimes we really like to eat, but they're not really good for our health. But not only do these foods taste good, and they're also their shelf life has a long shelf life. So we have to make sure that when we are going to the grocery store and we buy the cookies and the candy, that we check their expiration date. Again, sometimes they're not the most nutritious food, but sometimes they sit longer on the shelf and they're not going to spoil. And sometimes that's what families need nowadays, right? We have families that parents aren't working, and we need food that's going to stay on the shelf for a little bit longer, because we got to stretch that dollar. We have to make sure that the food is lasting us to our next paycheck, things like that. So
my concerns don't let me buy this stuff. My concerns tell me I don't know if it's been at the right temperature. My concerns will not let me buy it, even though that says Oreos. I would not buy that. I don't know if it's been in some unrefrigerated truck. I just cannot buy that stuff. I buy gift bags. I buy balloons. I may buy nail polish. But if it's something I have to eat or consume, I can't make myself buy it at the dollar store.
Yeah.
Even one time I saw on 60 Minutes, well, I thought when they had the jeans in the flea markets, I thought the jeans they were fakes, and they actually were true brand jeans, because they had hijacked and stolen from a truck. But I have a hard time trusting the dollar stores. I just get my balloons, I get pens, but I cannot buy food. I just think it's too much of a risk. I won't buy toothpaste. They're going to show the story one time where the toothpaste was not in the United States, and that scared me to death, and I'm still stuck there. That may have been a story 10, 12 years ago, but I do not think this stuff is safe.
Yeah.
If I could find out where the plants are at, perhaps I could get a little bit better, but they'd have to be United States plant. And then, like I said, I think if Tide is selling at the dollar store, I think that's the less of the Tide. That's the stuff they were throwing away. That's the stuff they couldn't pass the smell test, and they let it go out on a pallet or something.
Right.
But I'm buying it. I just get paranoid about stuff like that.
And
a lot of the time their food is not just, like bad stuff there. A lot of it is overstock.
Yeah.
I had a friend that worked at the 99-cent store, and she says a lot of their stuff there, because she shopped there all the time, never had a problem. A lot of their stuff is overstocked. Where the other stores, the main stores, the big stores, they just don't have the room for it to store, so they have to get rid of it, and they just send it to the dollar stores.
Right. And then a lot of it also too is packaging. So for example, Oreo makes the little cookies like you see there. There's maybe 6 of them. And then they make that for the dollar stores. And then they make the bigger packages because they know people will buy the bigger packages for the big box stores and stuff. So it just really depends. Again, it's, everyone is different. I really haven't bought like canned foods. I have bought more of the snacks, like those Oreos, the Scooby snacks you see there, because I put those in like the kids' lunches and stuff like that. I haven't even bought, I've never bought any of the frozen stuff. I've seen it, but I haven't really bought a lot of that stuff either. So again, it just depends on what you're comfortable with, looking at those expiration dates. Again, the snack foods are very popular because it's very inexpensive, but their nutrition value is not very good. So we just want to make sure that we're buying, especially if you're trying to follow a good healthy diet, is making sure, even at the big box stores, right? We don't want to really be buying a lot of those snacks that we know are not very healthy for us.
Well, I have to put this in there.
Yeah.
There are brands that are sold at the 99-cent store that are sold. If you go in there, they're the same brands that are either Walmart, and they're higher at Walmart. It's the same, some of the same brands, but you just have to be conscious and know what you're buying when you buy. And if you look at what they have at the 99-cent store, go to Kroger's or go to Walmart, you'll see the same brands and you'll see the higher price. And they do buy it in bulk. That's just like any store. It's like when it was Foley's. If they had stuff that couldn't sell, they would let vendors come in and buy it in bulk.
Mhm.
And if you're looking for something bad, I have purchased stuff at Kroger's. I have purchased stuff at Walmart that apparently either got pushed back or it was left off the shelf and then they put it back in the shelf. I get it home, it's no good.
Yep.
And I have to take it right back to Kroger's or Walmart. So you just have to be conscious of what you're buying. It can happen to you anywhere, not just at the dollar store or the 99-cent store.
Yeah, and you're very right. Again, looking at those expiration labels and things like that. And right now we'll talk about cans that are dented and things like that. So you do have to be conscious of what you're buying. And then again, if you're very you have a budget, you want to stay on that budget, sometimes it's worth buying things at the dollar store and making sure that what you're buying, you're within your budget and something versus the big box store. So again, it's your lifestyle and what you're used to. And again, some people might only go to the dollar store just to buy those seasonal items, and that's fine. It's just, we just want to let you know that you can buy food at the dollar store. You just got to be conscious of what you're buying. And then you're also, making sure you're staying within your budget and your means as well. So we talked about online. So some dollar stores have an online shopping. So just making sure if you are, sometimes our older population, we don't want them out in the community, especially right now, because they're at a higher risk for getting COVID-19. So sometimes this online shopping is easy, right? H-E-B has it, Kroger has it, Walmart has it, Target, you can order your groceries online and you just pull up in your car, pop your trunk, and then they deliver your groceries. So even our dollar stores have an online shopping. But again, just make sure that if you're ordering your groceries, they don't have that hidden cost. Sometimes they'll put in like a shipping cost or things like that. So just make sure to check when you're doing your online grocery shopping for those little items as well. And then of course, be sure to check the store's return policy too. A lot of food, like a lady mentioned, she bought something and it wasn't good when she got it home, making sure the return policy, what their policy is on returning items, that it has the expiration date and it's within the date, but you open it up and it has a really not a good smell. There's a foul smell, this isn't right. Making sure you can return that product as well. So tips for shopping at the dollar store. So when we're shopping for food, approach the dollar store like any traditional grocery store when possible. Plan your meals if you can, and your snacks in advance as well. So you have ideas of what to buy. And I know when I was growing up, my mother always said, don't go to the grocery store hungry. And I never knew what that meant. I'm like, why would I go to the grocery store when I'm hungry? I just don't get it. As I grew up and started working and buying my food and stuff like that, and I would go hungry to the grocery store, I would buy everything. I would go to the middle of the store and get all the snacks and put them in my grocery cart and not shop around the grocery store, right, where the vegetables are and the dairy and the proteins and all that stuff. So now I know when my mom used to tell me, don't go to the grocery store hungry, because you just want to buy every snack that there is. I would probably buy 10 bags of that dill popcorn if I could at Aldi, but I'd just buy one. So being conscious of your shopping experience, planning your meals, planning your snacks in advance is also really good. And then of course, knowing those food prices that you're accustomed to at whatever grocery store you go to as well. And then if you shop at the dollar, discount, or grocery store, making sure what's on sale too, using your coupons. If you shop using your phone or your app, using your coupons. If you're used to the newspaper and the coupons are still in there, using your coupons as well. And then if you see a food item that's on sale, it's good to stock up sometimes, right? If you know that can of corn that you really like from a certain brand is $6 for X amount of money, it's good to probably stock up for a while, because that corn is going to last, or that corn has a little bit of a shelf life to last you a little bit more. And of course, having a plan for each food that goes in the cart. I used to buy when I would go to the grocery store, before I would plan my meal, and before all this, I would just buy ground beef, and I would buy pork chops and this, having no idea when I'm going to use them. And I would just throw them in my freezer. And then 2 months later, I'm like, oh, look, I have pork chops in there. Are they still good? They've been in the freezer for 2 months. So really knowing your plan for the food that you're going to buy is really important as well. Not just buying food just to buy food. So making sure you have.
Okay, I have that problem too. When I go back, it's in the refrigerator for years. I try to take it to the senior center and I try to give it to them and they say, Kay, we're not taking your expired food. But the package will still be pretty and not crinkled or nothing. But I do tend to buy because as a child, I was taught to always keep it stocked.
Yeah.
So I would find stuff in my freezer that would be years old. I would find stuff in my pantry that would be years old. Now, when I buy stuff, I immediately put a marker on it and know that when I bought it. And I tend to think that sometimes I just eat in spells. I bought Wolf Brand chili in 2018 and I had about 10 cans. I just started eating it. And I said, you bought this in 2018. Now, in my mind, I thought I bought it maybe a year ago.
Right.
But I've had like 5 cans of chili in the last 2 weeks, which is kind of amazing. So I said, well, maybe you didn't want it in 2018, but it was on sale at Randall's.
Right.
But I tend to look at my stuff, and keep in mind, I don't have kids. So when I look up, it has been 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So now, like I said, I put dates on everything, but I do kind of throw away a lot of food too.
Yeah, then that's the thing. We kind of just buy just to buy. So that's why it's important when we do go to the grocery store, we have a plan. Like, okay, like I'm gonna make spaghetti on Monday, and then on I only cook every other day. We're a family of 5, and that's a lot of cooking and washing dishes and all this stuff. So for example, last night I made spaghetti, and there's enough spaghetti for tonight for dinner, and that's where we're gonna eat. If my kids, the rule is if you don't want it, then that's what's for dinner. Then you go to bed hungry. I'm not making another meal. And then I'll cook Friday, and I'll cook dinner Friday, and that will last us Saturday. So I'm not cooking all the time because it would just, it gets that a lot of money that we're spending. And then a lot of that food goes to waste if we're not eating it again. So we are a leftover family, and we have taught my kids that the leftovers, we're going to eat the leftovers. Now, granted, there's some things that don't reheat very well and stuff like that. Spaghetti always does really well. So I always try to plan for at least the next meal, and that's what we eat for leftovers. So having that plan is something that we should be getting used to, especially now. We've been in here for now 6 months with this pandemic, and it doesn't seem like it's getting better. So we have to have those plans in place. How much food do you need? What are you going to be making for your family? About 6 months, probably 6 months ago, I bought an Instapot. So I don't know if you're familiar with Instapot's it's almost like a crock pot, but it's like really high tech, and it cooks your food in like minutes. And I've been really experimenting with my Instapot, and I've made, for breakfast, I made egg bites. So they're really easy. I make them, my kids now like them, and they're just a little egg brown like that big, and there's spinach and there's turkey in there and cheese and egg. And that's what they eat for breakfast. So now I know I need 2 dozen eggs if I want to do egg bites, because I make, 10 at a time or something. So knowing that plan is really important. And then again, making sure that when you're buying, if you're going to stock up, you're going to stock up for a certain amount of time, right? So especially now during this pandemic, 6 months ago, we stocked up on everything, right? Corn and toilet paper and Clark's wipes, and now we can't find some of that stuff anywhere in sight. So it's really good to know, to have that plan and to be conscious of that plan when you're shopping. And then especially, it's important also to read those food labels, to try to choose food that are nutrient for us and they're healthy for us as well. Food sold in the U.S. are subject, again, to strict labeling laws with few exceptions. Food sold in the U.S. are required to have the following information on the package. So our nutrition facts panel, which includes the serving size, the calorie content, and nutrition information. The ingredient list is also really important, and then the name and the address of the manufacturer, producer, and the distributor. No matter where you purchase your food, make sure it's properly labeled. So again, some of us might be skeptic on buying food that's not produced in the US. And so it just really just depends on what you want to buy. Some of us, like I mentioned earlier, I only buy Starkist tuna fish. That's all I buy. I won't buy anything else. Everyone's used to something. So just making sure that you're mindful of your nutrition label and the fat panel, okay? And then when at the grocery store, no matter where you shop, big box or small stores, check the expiration dates. It's very important. The sell by or best if used by dates of the foods you buy. And remember, we want to get the best quality of food from your dollar. So if you cannot consume the food before the state stamped on the label, it's best that you don't buy it. So just like you mentioned about the chili, making sure you can eat it within that time frame. If you bought it a year ago and it doesn't expire till 2022, you know you can eat 6 cans of chili by 2022, right? So making sure that you stay within that range. And then if you cannot consume the food stamped, don't buy it because it's a bargain, because it's 20 cans for $5 or something. And then, of course, finally, making sure that the packages or cans of food that you buy are intact and the cans aren't heavily dented. Again, this is not just limited to the dollar store. This is limited to even big box stores. We just want to make sure that when you're buying cans of food, that they're not really dented, because you just never know what happens inside that can, okay? And of course, if you buy cans of food that are dented, you can always take it to customer service and just let them know, hey, this can is dented. Can I exchange it for another one? Or there's usually people walking around the store, and then they can also switch out those cans for you. All righty. So that concludes our presentation at 10:58 a.m. Thank you so much for all your wonderful feedback and your questions. I love that you guys are engaged. So does anyone have any questions about this program?
I have a comment.
Yeah, of course.
Now that we're in this pandemic and we've been in it for 4 or 5 months now, a lot of the stores that you go to and you purchase things, they'll have on the outside, no returns, no exchanges.
Yeah.
You have to be careful of that, because if you get something and you don't want it or whatever, you can't exchange it and they won't give you your money back.
Yeah.
So
and it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting too. Even on clothes, like I bought some things from Walmart that I love the clothes from Walmart. I bought a couple of things and you can't try them on because the dressing rooms are closed. And so I took it home. I'm like, oh gosh, this doesn't really fit well. And, and so I went to, this was probably back in April, and they said they're not taking any returns on clothes. And I was like, oh, okay. It just caught me off guard. So yeah, you do have to be mindful of the return policy. And we talked about that earlier too, about what you can and cannot return. Mm-hmm. So thank you for bringing that up. That's important. Anybody else?
Yes, I've always taken my bags to the grocery store.
Yes.
And one time I took them recently and I tried to hand her the bag. She said, we can't take those anymore. So now I have a slew of plastic bags.
I know.
Sometimes I take them back, but then I'm a crafter, so I like to make things out of them, but I'm having a very large proportion of them.
I know. Yeah, that too. I mean, and that's just, again, because they don't know what is in your household. They don't know if somebody was positive, COVID-19 positive in your house, and they touched the bag, and now you have the grocer at the grocery touching your bag. And we know that COVID-19 will stay on surfaces for a certain amount of time. So, and I use reusable bags all the time. And it is hard when you're having so many plastic bags in your house, because again, we want to do best for our environment and we want to recycle and stuff, but sometimes it just gets really out of hand, because again, whether you're grocery shopping for yourself or a family of 5 and you go to the grocery, I have come back with like 20 plastic bags, and it's like, now what do I do with these plastic bags? So we recycle them in the house. We have cats, which I don't like. So my son uses the bags for kitty litter. So we just find a use for all of them. But yeah, unfortunately, during this time, the reusable bags has really come into question. But there's some stores that do take them. Like I used it at, where did I use them at? I think I used it at Kroger, and they they took them. But then again, some of those bankers have gloves now, so it just depends where you buy your groceries at.
Yeah, the Kroger I went to wouldn't take them back, let me use them. But I also use my plastic bags to, for lots of purposes. And in fact, I cut some up the other day and helped them tie a plant to a stake.
Oh.
So, but I think I'm gonna ask for paper bags next time, because I like paper bags because they stand up.
Mhm.
And but I have to watch the packers, because sometimes they put too much in it.
Right.
And some of the plastic bags, they don't put enough.
Exactly.
You have a lot less plastic bags if they put more in them.
Exactly. That's very true. That's very true. Anyone else have any comments?
In regards to the plastic bags, they do take them back at Target and they do take them back at Lowe's.
Mhm.
I think Walmart discontinued them. In regards to returning something to the store, if you buy food from Kroger, you can return produce or something that you think is spoiled. But the best way to return it is if you buy it online, as I do, they will give you a credit. So like sometimes they may substitute a canned good. And I'm like, I don't want the no-name canned goods. I only want Del Monte. They'll give you back your money on it. And I have been dealing with that a lot lately. I almost order from Kroger almost every week.
Mhm.
And most times my orders, if they substitute something, they'll just give you back your credit. I've had great luck with that.
Good for you. That's good. Again, and it's always important to even just ask, because if we don't ask, we're never going to receive what it is, right? So that's good that you're being vocal, and you are being vocal for you and the health and safety of you and your family. So again, we just have to be also mindful of that return policy, how it works. Do they give you a credit? Do they give you a cash card, or things like that? So good. So that's really important. Thank you for bringing that up too. Thank you.
I shop
Two
on
things
Kroger
that I
too.
have- Okay. Two things that I have did when it comes to savings is when I cook, like if I buy something and it's like you said, buying in bulk, sometimes it's not good for us because of the price ranges.
Yeah.
But it just depends on what it is. I might cook a good batch of something and then I'll freeze it. I'll do individual, because most of us live, alone, or it might be one or two in the family.
Right.
So I'll freeze individual servings,
Mhm.
and it can go a long way. And I come out saving better with that. And then also there's a couple of restaurants that I will buy dinners from. I can get full meals that one dinner can be like 2 servings or sometimes 3 servings, because they give you so much.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I could go. I had a habit at one time that I would go to this one restaurant. I would get 3 plates from them,
Mhm.
and I would mix the vegetables, mix the meat, mix the starches on my order, and I would eat off of that the whole week. And those 3 plates only cost me $30.
Right.
And I couldn't go to the store and buy fresh vegetables and the starches and everything like that, or the meats, for that low price.
Right. Yeah. It's just really, again, freezing the food. Sometimes when I can't go to the grocery store, I send my husband, and my family now knows that he's notorious that if there's a sale, he's going to buy it. Like an example is the Welch's sparkling juice, right? Because my kids love it. They think that they're fancy. And if it's on sale, like 10 for, $15, he'll buy all 10. So we have like now 10 sparkling juice, Welch's juice, sitting in the hallway because we have so much juice and stuff. But we've learned that if it's a good sale, it's probably good. And again, Welch's juice is going to have a long shelf life, and the kids, we're going to drink it. If we're going to get through those 20 bottles eventually. Something also that he, which I thought of, but I never really did. He bought the big thing of ground beef. And I'm like, God, Joe, I'm like, that's like a lot of ground beef. He's like, listen, I'm just going to open it. I'm going to cut chunks out and we're going to freeze it. And whenever we need it, we just take a bag. I was like, oh, look at you, smarty pants, like trying to save us money and trying to, so, he's done some really good things too with, trying to save us money and make all that grocery food, because we're a family of 5 and we eat a lot. And so trying to make sure that food that we buy really makes it really, we stretch it out for a long time as we can. So those are some really great tips. So thank you, ladies.
When I shop online, I learned from experience I don't like the substitutions. So now I check the box that says no substitutions. Because I've wound up taking things back because the substitution was not acceptable at all.
Right.
Not that the product was bad. It's just that I didn't want that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like you're used to one brand, and just like me, I will not buy tuna fish from other brands. I like my StarKist, and that's it. So again, it's what you like, but again, making sure that you're getting the most bang for your buck, right? Making sure that your dollar is stretching, and again, stepping into that dollar store if we haven't done it yet. Just look around and see what they have, and even in the freezer sections too. Sometimes they might have good deals for us. So anyone else want to share anything?
I found that keeping an inventory of what's in my freezer really helped me from letting things get freezer burned and out of date.
Yes.
So yeah, my pantry I go in all the time, my refrigerator I go in all the time, but I don't always go in the freezer. A lot of times I would just be grabbing what was out front. Oh, there's chicken. Oh, there's a pork chop. And I'd forget about what was way in the back.
Yeah.
So keeping that inventory, I can say, oh, it's time to use those livers or gizzards or whatever stuck way back there,
Yeah, that's true. So like what I mentioned earlier, that my husband bought this big thing of ground beef and we chunked it up, put it in Ziploc freezer bags, and I actually wrote the date of when we bought it in Sharpie, and we throw them in there. So I know that if it's this time next year, I'm like, well, you know what? That ground beef has been there for over a year. I don't know if we should eat it or not. It's been probably has freezer burn. That's a good way too, is to inventory. So that's a really great tip too. So I write things on my Ziploc bags and I throw them in the freezer. So that's a really good way. So thank you for sharing that. Anyone else?
Yeah, if you, it's a good investment, if one of those machines that sucks all the, you put your meat in the package and suck the meat out or the air out.
Yeah.
The meat does last a whole lot longer.
Yeah, I've seen those.
It's worth the investment.
Yep, I've seen those fancy machines out there. Those are good too.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah. Anyone else? I know it's a little over past 11 o'clock, and I don't want to keep you if you have another meeting or somewhere to get to.
Just young and restless.
I'm going to go, but I really appreciate it. I wasn't sure how much I would learn, and now I'm more willing to look at the dollar store for food.
Good. I'm glad. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Me too. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so just before we go, just really quick, next week we're going to have Andy Crocker. You guys, you will love him. He is amazing. He's going to do a topic on the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia, because there is a difference, okay? And that he is our specialist in gerontology at Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, and he will make you laugh. He is so good. So please tell your friends, tell your family, hop on this call next week at 11 o'clock. It'll be the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia, and guaranteed.
10 o'clock.
Yes, same time, same bat channel. We'll see you here next week.
If I don't
Thank
forget.
you.
If you don't. Thank you, everyone. Have a great Wednesday. Thank you for coming on. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.